Diabolical. Absolutely diabolical. And I just, it was insane. Hi, it's me. You can call me BP. Welcome back to my channel. And today I want to talk about probably the best and most underrated episode in the entire 911 catalog from season 5, episode 16. I like to call this episode 118 Begins Again, but they call it Mayday. I think this episode is so genius. Whether they did it consciously or unconsciously, they revisited and gave a happy ending to almost every single character's Begins episode, except for like Hen and Athena. Hen kind of like her storyline with the Begins episodes is very different than everyone else's. I have a lot of thoughts on the Begins episodes. I'll talk about them at another time, but Athena's doesn't come back at all because she's like barely in this episode. Hen's storyline kind of mirrors Eddie's storyline in the way of like what sparks you to do the job, whatever. Mayday really sparks Eddie's fire. This really like reignites Eddie's passion for being a firefighter. It like slaps him in the face and he's like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. Yeah, you're right. I think it's genius. I think it's absolutely genius. And this is one of those things that like I picked up on and I was like, am I too deep into the lore that I recognized all of this, or was this on purpose? So the context of this episode is that it takes place towards the end of season 5 when Eddie had quit being an active duty firefighter and was working at the call center as like the social media liaison. At the beginning of the episode, Eddie and Linda kind of have like a conversation about like where they're at in their lives and their jobs or whatever. And Linda basically says, God tells you where you need to be. And then Eddie goes and he finds the call center on fire and they're like, that's a sign, that's your sign. And then at the end of the episode, Linda's like, looks like God has spoken. Facts, true, absolutely. If you do a little callback to season 2, I used to know all of these like off the top of my head. I literally could be like, yeah, Chimney Begins, that's season 2, episode 13. Is that right? Could you imagine if that was right? It was, it's season 2, episode 12. So I was close. Hen Begins is 2/9, I think, right? All right, well, yeah, all right, that's concerning. Do I know all of them off the top of my head? Yes. No, I don't, actually. I know all the Begins episodes. Anyway, in Chimney Begins, the whole like plot of it is obviously how Chimney became a firefighter. And within that plot, we see Chimney and his brother best friend Kevin become firefighters together. And Chimney goes off to the 118 and Kevin goes off to the 133. They meet up for a fire and they're working together. They're working together venting this roof. And then Kevin falls through the roof and dies. And that's very traumatic for Chimney and for the audience. I have never watched that episode without crying. But then in Mayday, we see Albert basically tell Chimney, I don't want to do this anymore. And Chimney's like, you haven't been doing it for that long. You'll be fine. Get over yourself. And Albert's like, cool, yeah, got it. Then the call center lights up. The 118 and the 133 show up to the call. And then Chimney and Albert go up and start venting the roof. And as this is happening, the roof falls from underneath Albert and he falls. And I was sitting there watching and I thought to myself, come on, come all, it's happening again. If I had a nickel for every time that a beloved family member of Howard Hahn fell through the roof while working at the 133, I would have 2 nickels. That's not a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right? Chimney is able to pull Albert up from out of the roof and Albert survives. And at the end of the episode, Chimney is like, hey, yeah, you should quit if you want to. And Albert's like, thank the Lord, I'm done with this. So Chimney gets a revisit of his storyline of losing a brother who worked for the 133 by falling through the roof, but he's able to save him, and then he loses a firefighter brother, but his brother's still alive, right? Insane parallel. I remember when I first saw the pictures of Albert with like the 133, I was like, oh my god, they're gonna kill him too. Okay. All right. Can you believe? We never had a true like Bobby Begins. It was Point of Origin, and then we had Bobby Begins again. So, but it all focuses around the same storyline. In Point of Origin and Bobby Begins Again, his two like Begins episodes, we learn about Bobby's tragic past and how he lost his wife and his two children, his son and his daughter, in a tragic apartment fire that he started unintentionally. That's not the point. In Mayday, the 118 shows up and he's talking to Sue and he's like, everyone's been evacuated. And Sue's like, yeah. And he's like, okay, where's May? And Sue was like, I forgot about her. She is still in the quiet room. And Bobby said, come on, it's happening again. I'm about to lose another daughter in a fire. Bobby takes a team up and he goes to try and rescue May. And they like show up to the hallway. The hallway's fully engulfed and they're like trying to figure out a way into the room. And Bobby's like, fuck this, and starts taking an axe to the wall and is like, I am getting my daughter out of here. And he does, and he is able to rescue May. And as they're like running out of the burning building, the roof falls. He like sacrifices himself to like land on top of May, and they both make it out alive. But it was just like this moment of like, Bobby is not going to lose another daughter in like quite literally the same way he lost his first daughter. And then at the end of the episode, we see Bobby being loaded into an ambulance and May like goes with him and like some other firefighter stops her. And she's like, no, wait, that's my dad. And Bobby's like, you don't have to lie. And she was like, no, I didn't lie. I have two dads and you're one of them. I'm crying. Absolutely crying. So they brought back Bobby losing a daughter in a fire storyline, but gave it a happy ending. Love that. They don't really parallel Buck Begins that much, but the parallel I did see was when in Buck Begins, when Buck is trying to like lift, he's doing something. And then as he's like struggling to do something, the whole team rushes in and helps them. And then that also happens in Mayday. And I think it's Lucy, but one of them is like lifting up one of the concrete things and then the whole team steps in and helps out. Then when Buck is like lifting up his thing, they play his song, which is called So Far by two people whose names I cannot pronounce because I do not believe they are English. But that's kind of like the only thing. But also with like Buck's storyline, it's like him sacrificing himself for the team, which is also what Bobby did. And it's a cute like father-son parallel moment. So in Eddie Begins, you see his storyline of him in the army and him saving all of the people in the helicopter, and then him fighting to get back to his family within the army, within him being trapped in the well with the picture of Chris, right, we're on the same page there, got it. In Mayday, Eddie is the one who signals that there's a fire, and then when Eddie like gets out of the building, Bobby sends Eddie back in. Eddie, go get turnouts, go do this. I know you can do it, whatever. And so he is the one to save his team. He's the one to save both of the teams because he saves the dispatch center because he radios that there's a fire. His fight to get back to his family with Bobby and the rubble and fighting to save Bobby. It's like the perfect parallel to Eddie Begins, in my opinion. And nothing cements my idea of the Begins episodes and the Mayday episodes as the music choice in this fucking episode. Because I'm gonna do a little callback here. If you remember season 3, episode 15, is that right? If that's right, I'm gonna scream. My brain works in mysterious ways. Anyway, if you do a little callback to Eddie Begins, when Eddie is like sitting in the well, losing it, being like, I'm still alive down here, and they start to play a song. Right, and they play the cheesy montage of like Eddie and Christopher and Eddie and Buck and Eddie and Buck and Christopher and Eddie in the 118. That's the montage of him fighting back to get to his family, right? And then we fast forward into Mayday when Bobby's trapped underneath the rubble and they're trying to get to him. And guess what they play? No, they were rude. Rude. And then, you know, we have Eddie and everyone fighting to save Bobby, and then they save Bobby. And then at the end of the episode, while the cheesy ass song is still playing, because I still think this song choice was diabolical and I will stand on that, they show this shot while this plays in the background. Diabolical. Absolutely diabolical. And it was insane. There's a lot of like really good episodes in 911 and their whole like catalog. And I just feel like not a lot of people talk about Mayday. I feel like people talk about Begins. I feel like people talk about the opening disaster arcs. I feel like people talk about Fight or Flight. People don't talk about Mayday. I'm just saying. It's one of the best ones that is not, it's like a standalone, right? Those are all my thoughts about it. What do y'all think? Do you enjoy this episode? What are your thoughts? Do you think we will ever get any other characters Begins Again episodes? Let me know. And I'll see you in my next one.